So until Pack is here, we can do something that someone requested yesterday at the very end of the stream. There was a dono or a sub, I don't quite remember what it was, but they asked what I thought of this deck, and we do have a couple of minutes spare, so we can take a look at it. It is something. It is something else. It is a Chimera FTK hand loop combo. Now, I have already seen how they hand loop, but I haven't actually seen the entire deck profile and explanation. So we can take a look at it. Unfortunately, the quality is unfortunately what it is, but it's all right.
Hey guys, we're here with a special guest, the one and only Hanko Chow, and you finished top 4 at the YCS Niagara VIP qualifiers with Schmidt, Chimera FTK. I'm a little concerned on that last part there, but you do have a wonderful article on it on TCG Player. I'll have it linked down below. You guys should definitely go check it out. I was actually in the middle of reading it once we set up the call. So anyways, I'll just pass it over to you. Maybe you can talk about the deck in your article.
Yeah, I just finished writing an article on this, and it's up now. It's with it's in my rogue deck for the monthly thing. Definitely go check that out. Would highly recommend it. But yeah, I made this deck like a week or so ago, and I was done playing Yugioh. I wanted to experiment with some other ideas, and then I was thinking about this old.
Someone in chat said, what about Metal Fusion Substitute instead of Metal Force Fusion? I have been considering Fusion Substitute for Euros already. I think it's an option. I don't think it replaces Metal Force Fusion, but you could play both if you want to find the room for it.
Card that you can search off of Nightmare Throne. And then I was thinking about another combo where you can set it up with another fiend, and there wasn't that many other combos where you can dump 2 fiends and then reborn besides this deck specifically. So, and then there's a lot of more other synergies which I'll talk about later. But yeah, it's basically just Chimera Fiendsmith, but then there's a little gimmick at the end, which you could play a standard build, but I think this version has a better end board, quote unquote end board, and I don't know, it has less bricks and more extenders. I don't know. So let's just go right through it. You got the standard kind of stuff here. 3 Apprentice Illusion. Shout out to my friend Matt for lending me these cards for last weekend. Anyways, 3 Gazelle, 3 Mirror Sword Knight to get the Gazelle. So this gets the Apprentice.
In general, this has nothing to do with this specific version of it has nothing to do with this specific version of the Chimera deck, but I do kind of want to try out Chimera at some point before the YCS. I'm running very low on time. This YCS is very, very short term after after Worlds and stuff, so I feel very underprepared right now. But Chimera was one of the decks that I wanted to try. I don't know if I'm gonna have the time for it, but I feel like the Chimera cards are pretty nice.
Apprentice Nightmare gets the Mirror Sword Knight, which then gets the Gazelle, and you also have Quaddle, but you could use Apprentice to get the Quaddle to then get the Gazelle, but I'd rather use Quaddle to get Birthmet to my hand as a fusion extender. I don't normally want to use Mirror Sword Knight to summon a Birthmet in this version because unless you're going for the Chimera Illusion OTK line, you want to be able to have the option to use your Link monsters and stuff, so you try not to summon this card.
Chimera is interesting, but it's always the same about can you really break the Yubel board? Here's the thing, I don't think you have to always break the Yubel board in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think there are certain things in formats that are simply not solvable, right? And I think every single deck has the same problem. Even if you play hand traps, you have the same question of, hey, can I actually stop Yubel consistently? And the answer is also no, right? If you go second into Yubel, you're gonna have a problem, and that is something that every deck struggles from, even Yubel itself, right? Did you change your mic setup? So I don't have I have a thing that normally goes in front of it, this thing, and I have to move it out of the way for the remote tool setup, because otherwise it's blocking the hand cam, the camera that's recording my hand while playing. I can put it on now, maybe it helps, But when we remote to, we'll have to take it off.
It's like it seems like it's more rewarding, but in this version, it's actually it's less rewarding. So anyways, those are those cards, and obviously with
the thing with board breakers is you have to draw 2. You just can't draw 1. And the problem with the math behind that is that there simply aren't that many good board breakers, right? There are simply not that many cards that do it like Dark Ruler and like Droplet, right?
Yeah, Chimera stuff. You got the 3 Chimera fusions, which is very important for this combo. I like to play the Edgem Chain, Poly, and Patchwork package in this deck because they increase your hand size, and this is like a really cool synergy where you can discard it for Apprentice Nightmare or Nightmare Apprentice, and then like just having a secondary fusion spell is also very important in this combo, so that's why I wanted to include it. So there's that, and then there's the Beansmith package with everyone's got to play, but this version I chose to max out on the Tract and the Engravers because the combo gets easier if you can open one of these kind of cards, so that way you don't have to commit 2 bodies to make the Closed Sky. But you could play the Evil Hero thing, but yeah, I'm prioritizing sending other cards, which I'll show momentarily, instead of sending the Evil Heroes. So that's why I wanted to play these. And then we play the Nightmare Throne package here.
Oh.
Because I think this is like one of the most powerful, splashable generic packages in this game right now. It's just like an E-Telly. It's like you have 4 copies of like an E-Telly for like a Fiend on the field, and then after you're done using the U-Bell as like a...
Okay, so we're using... They are correct. This is something that I am kind of surprised people are not doing more. But I do also understand why people are not like doing it, because it is like you're playing 4 field spells and 2 quote-unquote bricks, right? But you are getting a lot of mileage out of 1 Nightmare Throne, right? You go Nightmare Throne, pop Spirit, summon Yubel, link with the Yubel, and then make a Phantom. But it is 2 bricks. It's 6 deck slots, and 2 of them are bricks. So like, yeah.
Fusion material or link material, then you get to like make a Phantom afterwards. So it just, it's really broken. And so there's another fiend you can add or destroy with the Nightmare Throne, which is Phantom of Chaos. But this is actually going to be the first target that you send off of Birthmit, and then use your Fiendsmith cards to make Aerial Eater to send Sky Scourge Noralis. And this card, if you're a big fan of like Edison format, you know what this card does. Or if you've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for as long as I
know what this card does.
And you usually see this card complemented with this card, because nobody actually can make a deck that summons this unless you're playing like Fluffles, or if Beatrice was legal, this would have been way easier to summon because Beatrice is Light Fairy. But now that Beatrice is banned, it's a lot harder to set this up. So you're gonna have to use Phantom of Chaos to copy the effect. So basically, the combo is sending with Aerial Eater and Birthmet, these 2, and using Muckcracker to reborn the Phantom of Chaos, and you reset the game to 0. But you have graveyard effects.
Yeah. So basically, Norloras sends the entire field and hand to the graveyard, and I think then you draw 1 card. So it can be ashed, funnily enough, but the idea is obviously because you have Engraver already set up in the graveyard, you have Chimera cards in the graveyard, like the Chimera Fusion, you can add it back to your hand later and stuff like that. You are super you're super ahead in that game, right? Like you have 1 card in hand, they have 0 cards in hand, they're gonna draw 1, but you have a lot of graveyard follow-up, basically, right? Can it be ashed if you're copying the effect? So the way Phantom of Chaos works is you banish a monster in your graveyard, then Phantom of Chaos copies its effect, but then you still have to activate the effect again, right? Like you are like Phantom of Chaos becomes Norloras, and Norloras has a once per turn effect, right? It's not like you're not doing it immediately when you're copying. It's not rollback. It's basically like you're copying. Phantom of Chaos becomes the same card with the same effect, and then after you've copied the effect, you are then activating it on Phantom of Chaos, right? And so that can be ashed, yes.
and you're basically winning at that point. It's pretty obnoxious because the deck also has like hand trap protection from this guy. What's this called? Cornfield Coatl. So Veiler, Imperm, and Mourner does nothing against this deck once I set it up, unless you like pair it. But even if you do...
Norloras is not once per turn, so if they Ash you just use it again. Wait, what? Guy Scourge, Norloras. Guy Scourge, Norloras. You can pay 1,000 life points. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, you can Ash it, but that's like ashing a danger. Fair enough.
Stop the combo, you're usually really behind in card advantage because I still get the hand rip and I still have like everything else in my at my disposal to stop you.
Funnily enough, guys, it is still correct to Ash it though. Because what's the point of just letting your Ash get discarded, right? You might as well Ash so that they have to pay 1,000 life points again. Right? Like we're making fun of it right now, but like you have an Ash, they go for Norleras. Yeah. Play into Talons. Bro, they will lose their entire hand as well. It plays around them drawing Talons for their one Norleras draw. I would Ash earlier. Yeah, obviously. Right? Obviously. They're gonna draw into Talons. Okay, dude.
From playing. So this deck has a very high win rate when it goes first. And then some non-engine space, Call by the Grave, and Triple Tactics Talent. Like, you know, just if you're attacking your opponent's hand, and then if they have to hand trap you, and then you play Talents to rip the more cards out of your hands. This card's really broken in these kind of decks. So that's the main deck. It's 43 cards. It's very consistent. You do want to see the...
So this is basically just Fiendsmith Chimera, but instead of going for like the Dia Bells illusion monster with your cards, you set up the two fiends together, right? Like the Phantom and the Norleras. Other than that, it has no like bricks or anything like that. It's just like two extra engine requirements, right? You do play the Yubel cards as bricks as well. The only thing that I am not seeing here at all is there's not a single board breaker and there's not a single hand trap. So it's like literally just 3 talents in 43 cards. Everything else you have just engine going second, right? Like there's nothing else. You just have to literally brute force into the opponent's board whenever you go second, right? Like you have to just play. Also, quick side note, it is now 1:04 and Pack has not responded yet. We'll give the man some time because it is very early for him, but I hope he didn't oversleep. We'll see.
A way to get to Gazelle more often, so you could like cut down like maybe one Tract or one Apprentice or one Gravers kind of thing, like to slim it down, but it also works better with the side patterns I have, so that's why I chose to keep it at like 43. So that's the main deck, and then the extra deck. So we got the Fiendsmith cards, you know, Engraver, Sequence, Closed Sky, the Aerial Eater, the Fiendsmith Desiree, and the Muckcracker, as well as Wave King Caesar, which like you could say it's like a Fiendsmith card, but it's also like a Chimera card, because the Chimera can make this guy, Berthmet, which is a level 6 Fiend, but you'd rather keep it on the field because of the Coatl negate. Anyway, so the Chimera cards, I played 2 Berthmets, 1 Chimera, the King of the Hand Rip Chimera, and then the OTK Chimera. I've summoned like every single card here, except for maybe Desiree at times, but the theory behind Desiree...
I mean, it feels like your deck doesn't really need to go Desiree because you are hand ripping instead, but I guess if you get hand trapped, maybe you want to end on that.
Is that once you put your opponent on top deck mode, your follow-up is to try and make this guy, and now they're top decking against a Desiree, which is usually not happening. And then some other... oh yeah, sorry, Necroquip is also like a Fiendsmith card, right. And then Phantom of Chaos, Magnum the Reliever, and Guardian Chimera. I sometimes do wish I play like Predaplant, Draco Stapelia, but like I kind of just don't see the room unless I cut out Desiree. But yeah, this is Magnum the Reliever.
The only issue with this sort of deck, I suppose, is that we are in a format where a lot of decks have like pretty strong 1-card combos, right? So like Imagine you go for the Nolaras and your opponent just top decks Bonfire, or your opponent top decks Samsara D Lotus, or Nightmare Throne, or Canahawk, or whatever, right? Like it is very risky in that like you're still gonna be winning the majority of the games, but there is definitely a chance that you can like get overrun, right? You have a graveyard negate? What do you have? You can make Phantom after hand rip, but most of the time you would want to make Phantom to protect your combo, probably. Also, Phantom of Yubel only works if you draw Nightmare Throne, which is not a consistent thing. Like, sometimes you have it, but majority of your games you won't, right? Mirror Sword Knight and Quattle, but you won't have the thing on the board. Your own board is empty too, after Norlaras.
The light fiends, so technically you could like make this.
But maybe we're showcasing it. Maybe there is something.
Guardian Chimera is the honorary Chimera card, and I play just one Phantom of Chaos. Sometimes I do miss two because I want to summon one to protect my combo, and then like summon a second one later. But like you technically could like after you're done using your first one, you could
you can reborn in your opponent's turn, right?
If you have another Nightmare thrown up, then you can fuse with the Spirit of Yubel or the Yubel on the field, and then that'll trigger the Nightmare Throne to put this back. So it's actually surprisingly doable in this version. So that's the extra deck. My side deck is still a work in progress. I think I'm going to make a lot more improvements if I were to keep playing this deck. But I chose to go for a board breaker approach post side. So I like play Evenly Match, Lightning Storms, Book of Eclipses, Forbidden Droplet, and 3 Infinite Impermanence. I had Mulcharmians in here, I had Phantasmas in here, but I wanted to try this kind of lineup, and I think I'm going to probably go back to playing like Droll and Lockbird or Nibiru's and stuff, but we'll see if I keep playing this deck. So that's just the side deck. I think it's definitely not finalized yet, but the main deck though, and the extra deck is I'm very comfortable with, and the game plan of this deck is like really simple. You make it look like as if you're playing a normal what's it called? A normal Chimera Fusion deck, where if you open like hands like these, let's see here. So you want to open a way to get to 2 fusion spells. So normally the Geza will get to the Chimera Fusion, and then like you have Edgem Chain, this, and let's just say you have like some other redundant cards here. So you normal summon Gazelle to get this, and then you like just fuse into the Chimera to just make it look like as if you're playing a regular deck, and you get all the pluses and stuff. What's it called? And if you don't open up Fiendsmith Tract, you're going to have to use the Nightmare Apprentice to summon itself, which then searches for a Quaddle. And you want to use Quaddle to, like I said, pitch to search for Big Wing Berthomet here. Because then if you fuse with it, with your secondary poly, then you get to make this guy, the Berthomet, and then the Berthomet, the Big Wing Berthomet is going to bring back an illusion. So we're going to bring back just a Quaddle here. And then, what's it called? That is going to send the first target, which is the Phantom of Chaos. So this looks pretty inconspicuous. Then you use the 2 monsters on the field here to make the Closed Sky into, oh my goodness, Closed Sky into Requiem into Engraver. And Engraver is basically just 2 bodies because you equip this, and then you make the Necrofusion or Necroquip, which then you bring back the Engraver by shuffling back whatever, and make Sequence, and the Sequence is going to fusion summon. Normally, I would put back like Necroquip and Berthomet because they're both Dark Fiends. And you want that's only if you opened up the Mirror Sword Knight, and clearly this hand did not open up the Mirror Sword Knight, so I might be reluctant to just put back the 2 Light Fiends, just for simplicity's sake. But normally, if you have like an Edgem Chain, or like then you want to put that back instead of the Berthomet, and you summon out the Aerial Leader. So this is like a formation that you're normally going to get into in this line, and you still have like 2 other cards in your hand. You're going to use the Aerial Eater to send the secondary part of the combo, which is the Sky Scourge Noralis. So you have both Sky Scourge, Phantom that you sent earlier, and you have all these other cards in the grave. You're going to link the Sequence and the Aerial Eater into Muckracker. And because you still have this on the field, remember, and you have a Coatl in your graveyard, you're protected from any targeted effects. So you can use Muckracker now to bring back the Phantom of Chaos by discarding a card afterwards.
You're not protected from Nib though, right? Even if you had Mirror Sword Knight at some point, Mirror Sword Knight... Does Mirror Sword Knight negate Nibiru, or is it only effects on the field? Mirror Sword Knight... it is monster your opponent controls, yeah.
Words. Where is he?
So I feel like you are always Giga-inting into Nibiru with this deck.
And you use Phantom of Chaos to copy Sky Scorch.
I guess that's why we're playing the the Nightmare Throne package. That makes sense.
Morales. And now you're just gonna nuke the board. Nuke the board and your opponent's hand. So your opponent has 0 cards in their hand. You draw a card per turn, and you haven't used Chimera Fusion to add back to your hand yet, so you use that to
normally Chimera doesn't play into Bestials this hard, but this combo does. I'm gonna be honest with you, my impression is that this is a fun thing to try. Like I imagine when you find out this combo, you're like, you know, it's like fun imagining like resolving this on people. To be honest, I don't think that this is worth it for Chimera decks, because I'm gonna be honest with you, Chimera is already really strong going first. Like if the Chimera deck gets to go first, like all these things that they're saying, like, oh, you're protected from targeting hand traps, you're protected from this, from that, you can push through that. That is all true for the regular Chimera deck as well, right? But like your game plan is just like, well, I'm gonna leave my opponent with their hand, but I'm just gonna make a really powerful board. And I think Chimera is already like pretty good at doing that, and doesn't necessarily need to resort to a combo like this. It does feel like win more, right? But like it's an interesting like discovery.
Back, and then you said it,
because it is also, that's the thing, it is not really an FTK, right? Like it's not your typical like I'm gonna inflict burn damage and win the game kind of FTK deck. It is a pseudo FTK by I'm gonna make a board or create a situation that is unwinnable for my opponent, which is something that Chimera can already do without playing those cards. And we haven't even taken into account that Norlara sends your opponent's entire hand to the graveyard, which is, for some decks, they can get value from that, right? Like imagine you're playing into I don't know, a Fiendsmith deck, and they pitch like Engraver and another like whatever combination of Light Fiend, like Lurie or something. They can bring back the Engraver potentially on the next turn, and you might have to deal with that, right? Imagine you're playing against Ritual Beast and they discard some Ritual Beasts. They have that Contact Fusion, right? Like they have the Contact Fusion into the Nokia Drago and stuff like that, and like, it could go wrong, right? Like you can discard cards with graveyard effects. You can play into, like, I don't know, queuing into Tearlament and send their hand to the graveyard. It's like, it's not as FTK as you know, you're making it out to be. Imagine you're discarding a Flamberge and 2 level 1 fires. It's unlikely, but it's like, it can happen.
You pass turn. It looks kind of, this looks kind of bad, but you actually have Chimera to either bring back the Mirror Sword Knight or the Baphomet, which, because we put back the Fiendsmith cards this time, we're just going to bring back the Baphomet, which then gets you 2 more cards to your hand, you know, Gazelle and the Chimera Fusion. And then you have Fusion Baphomet to bring back the Chimera Fusion. So now you have these 2 on the field, 3 cards in your hand.
Yeah, original Sinful Spoils. Yeah.
If you have Mirror Sword Knight in your graveyard, then they have to contest against that too, as with their 1 draw per turn. So basically, at this point, your opponent scoops up and then they lose, because sometimes if like I said, if we're able to keep the Engraver in the graveyard, they also I have another Engraver to play with next.
So it's like, it's a strong combo, but it's not auto win. Like it probably has, if you resolve this combo in this format, you probably do have like a 90% win rate or something, right? But like, considering that Chimera already has a strong win rate going first, and then this deck is probably even worse going second than other Chimera builds, and like I'd say it's win more. I'd say it's win more because you are playing into certain hand traps a lot more than usual, right? Like Bystials or Nibiru seem specifically crazy against this deck. Yeah, but it's Pog. Yeah, okay.
Turn as well, so it's it's pretty ridiculous. And like the combo has a built-in way to protect itself because of the Quaddle. But you could also, like, if you open up with enough extenders, like if you already have Engraver or Cracked in your hand, alongside with like another way to put another body on the field, there's situations where you can put like you can sacrifice your Birthment and your Necroquip, wherever this went, yeah, to make the Wave King. But this is only if you're anticipating your opponent to play Bystials or Nibiru, because then
okay, we have a way to do that.
This will protect you from that. But obviously, you're sacrificing the Quaddle negate. So this is...
See, so you have to pick your poison, right? Play around Nibiru or Bystial, or play around Imperm or Veiler, right? So you usually probably don't get both.
So this is... Let's go.
Is Pack still Bedge? I don't know. I just messaged them again. Maybe we also had a misunderstanding with the time zones. But I think he was supposed to be here like 20 minutes ago. It is very early for him though, and I honestly, at the end of the day, I don't really care when we play. We can just kill a little bit more time and then play like in a little bit. It's fine. I'm not in any hurry or anything like that, so let the man wake up.
Even if you do take this risk and they actually have like Imperm or whatever, usually they're super behind anyways because they still get a hand rip. They lost the card from playing a hand trap, and you still have like Chimera Fusion and just a lot of other follow-ups to play with. There's even times when, like I said, if you open up like if you already open up the Fan of Chaos or the Sky Scores, you can actually be able to afford to send like a Yubel or a Spirit of Yubel, so that way you can also make a Phantom Yubel after you resolve the Sky Scourge Norlis. So they have to contest against this too. Anyways, like that's basically the comment. What do you think, James?
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Really, really excited, but also terrified of seeing that. But huge thanks.
Yeah, it's a cool discovery. I'm not gonna lie. I personally don't think that this is going to be the ideal way of playing the Chimera deck, but it is a possibility that you would have to keep in mind, I guess. But the thing is, you don't really have to change that much about how you build your decks because of this, simply because people are already playing the cards that are good against this, which makes me think it's not that good of an idea, right? Like it's like your people are already playing Bystials, people are already playing Nib. This would be, I think, a really, really good discovery if we were in a board breaker format, right? Like if we were in a board breaker format, then that could be really, really cool to have a deck like this available. The problem is people are already leaning towards playing hand traps anyways. So I feel like you would struggle more into that. I feel like you can build a pure Chimera deck that is better into hand traps than this one. But it's something to keep in mind, you know, like if it's ever time for people to play board breakers again, you could bring out the Chimera hand loop deck and there you go, right? Like not bad.